Hello everyone and welcome back to another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're starting things off with a big old announcement because this weekend is going to be the 24-hour live stream. And if you haven't heard about it yet already, let me tell you right now, this is going to be one of the most ambitious events ever in Beyond All Reason history. I know they say that a lot, but they actually do mean it. One of the few, developer teams that actually lives up to the hype, and I'm very thrilled to announce that I'm also going to be participating in a huge chunk of the event right alongside Winter Gaming, Winter Gaming, StarCraft. I'm not sure what the actual channel name is. I'll have a link down below in the description section. If you're not a fan already, become a fan because it's going to be an awesome event, and I'm super excited to participate. We're going to be live on the main channel, and while I'm not, I'm probably going to be live on my channel, covering as much of the event as humanly possible. The flesh is weak, but the mind is willing, so we'll see how far we get. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and transition right on into this game here, where, spawning right in front of us here is a Cortex Commander, and in fact, one of 16 Cortex Commanders in this game. That's right, I counted before this match started. It's going to be none other than the Red Commander here, Darth Revan. 46 open skill, a previous tournament winner, and going to be showing us what they've got as core bots on the north side of Moonshine Run. Moonshine Run is an awesome map. One of my favorite maps, actually, of all time. We've got, some little bit of cheeky communism going on right here as the Yellow Commander sponsors the Red to get that production up and running super quickly, dumping all the metal into those solar panels and just expanding really quickly with the Commander alone, not even saving metal or energy production. Okay, we're going to stall in this tower then. Might want one of those solar panels back, my friend. Well, we've got communism at its extremist case right here, starving the Yellow Commander and boosting the ever-living heck out of the Red Commander here, as we do have these bots now pumping out one after another. Okay, kind of cool, kind of a cheeky little strategy. Spawning on the other side here is the blue team leader. It's going to be none other than Shrek 3 on Netflix. I've said this before, but Shrek 3 was a good one, although I think I probably prefer Shrek 1 or 2. I don't know, I feel like the Shrek movies are all so good. You can kind of watch the Shrek movies. You can basically pick up the Shrek movies from any one of them and watch all the rest of them. They just get better and better the longer you watch. But anyway, Shrek 3 on Netflix here. The Blue Commander clocking in at 39 open skill. My goodness, and Silver Chevrons as well, going to be showing us what they've got. I'm getting pretty high up there myself. I think I'm at 36 open skill. Man, I really got to push for that 40 open skill. I feel like that's when you really enter that pro level, at least in my books nowadays. Now, yeah, one of the weird things that I noticed, I just happened to be in the overhead camera here, unless I'm wrong about this. Oh, I'm totally wrong about this. Okay, I thought I saw all Cortex Commanders, but we do, at the very least, have a couple of Armada Commanders here. Dr. Sen, Brona, and Coqueto, the powder blue, lavender, and purple Commanders, all going to be playing as Armada. Looks like Wazla is playing as Armada back there as well. Okay, good. Oh, man, for a second I thought we were going to see all Cortex Commanders, and as much as I love it, that's also a very strange game, right? That's basically just a 1v1. It's basically just a giant 1v1 about, 4 months ago or whatever, before they made that patch that made pawns pretty good once more. Yeah, that would have been pretty funny, but no, we will see a little bit of variety here. We do mostly have some grunts on the front line for now, alongside a couple of rovers and likely some rascals. Ooh, some early shurikens come out. Okay. Yeah, actually, I like that quite a lot. Only takes a couple of blasts for those shuriken to paralyze. Actually, it only takes one blast. Okay. Yeah, to paralyze it. Where are we going? There we go. Brown Commander turns around, realizes, hey, wait a second, my teammate has done a lovely job of making this the easiest fight known to grunt kind. And just like that, those grunts will laser down their opposition here with no casualties induced. Yeah, those pink shurikens, super pesky. Okay. I love a couple early shuriken like this. Yeah, they can make these early fights just so much easier, so much more comfortable, and especially for, I mean, I don't want to say the worst player on the team, but definitely the lowest OS, or maybe, I mean, oftentimes the lowest experienced player on the team. It makes a lot of sense, right? Lend your resources where they're needed most, not necessarily where they're, where they come out of the lab the quickest, right? Anyways, fighters eventually clean up those shuriken, nicely done there by the air player. But yeah, certainly super annoying. Suddenly you're forced to think about anti-air defense early on the front line. It doesn't cost a lot of metal, only 80 metal per AA tower, but it is an expenditure, right? And each of these commanders going for it can cost the blue team in total quite a couple hundred metal there, probably. I would say probably, close to 400 metal if everybody's building one of these turrets. A couple of blitzes out on the front line so far. We are moving directly into Stout, so we're not going to be going for any of those Janice shenanigans, at least not yet. The Maroon Commander just content to produce a whole bunch of those medium tanks and try and get them out of the field. You need blitzes to counteract the enemy blitzes. It's kind of this, like, cat and mouse, right? Once the enemy stops producing blitzes, you want to stop producing blitzes. But while the enemy is producing blitzes, you only want to produce blitzes. So it's this weird, like, back and forth where you have to be very careful. Yeah, otherwise you're accidentally going to get run by a whole ton of blitzes right here. Now, this is a great engagement if the Red Commander can split those forces properly. I'd say good enough right there. Yeah, we do manage to get a pretty decent surround, a good concave on a bunch of these units. The battle has sort of turned. and I would say this is about the right time to retreat. Medium tanks moving into position here too. If those have been a part of this fight, I would say that might have gone a little bit better here for the Maroon Commander, but obviously fighting with superior unit count is always a tricky situation to be in here, so not a bad idea to try and take those fights efficiently when possible. But my goodness, what an army. The Yellow Commander, Alpha PvP Abuser, is moving forward, capturing metal extractors and handing all of them back to the Red Commander, meaning that the Red economy is gigantic right now. So gigantic, in fact, that we're actually going into T2 already. We have the T2 laboratory plotted down. We're 5 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, which I guess is not the fastest T2, but considering that this is essentially a lanes map without really a tech position, that is a ton of metal being dumped into that T2 lab super quickly. And you can see 374 metal worth of T1 solar panels being used to power all this too. Is not shabby. It comes at the expense, of course, of having all that metal in T1 solar panels, which you don't really want to leave it there long term anyways. This push cleaned up nicely, by the way, by a couple of maces that came out of the laboratory from the Green Commander and handed over to the Purple Commander. But yeah, definitely a little bit of a tricky situation right there, because suddenly it looks like the Yellow Commander has this crazy production. Realistically, it's the Red Commander, and there are no units on the field here, so this is another big catch. I don't think the blue team is reading this properly. I don't think they've scouted properly that this is actually a little bit of eco-greed. Basically a cheese. I mean, this is cheese, and beyond all reason is you pretty much rush out a T2 lab between two commanders rather than going for one lab apiece. Or at the very least, you know, one laboratory and then handing over constructors or anything. No, these commanders are working entirely together to pump out that laboratory. You can see every one of these mexes is just being reinforced with LLTs and then sent on over to the Red Commander to help boost out that eco production. And man, if it isn't a valid strategy here, the Red Commander going to have this T2 constructor out on the field super quickly. Darth Revan with the T2 con at 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Again, on a lanes map where normally you pretty much have to win your lane in order to get this T2 con out this quickly. Instead, the Red Commander is going to be more than comfortable scaling up that T2 economy, getting those T2 metal extractors up and running. While the front line is just continually reinforced by a whole bunch of twin guards and, well, regular guards. All sorts of guards all over the place. Scarecrow 100 pushing quite nicely on the southern side. We've got that critical mass of thugs that all of a sudden commanders have to start being really careful. Pushing into this with pawns is not ideal either. Yeah, you can see those pawns only take a couple of bursts in order to kill. I think it's probably 4 or 5 shots. They're probably closer to 4 shots from those plasma. It depends a little bit on the flanking damage. Probably closer to 3 with a perfect flank, and then about 4 if not flanking. Resbot, ooh, barely escapes with its life. Not bad. So careful to micro those resbots properly because they are super duper important. But yeah, you can see these pawns, just there's not enough of them. There's just nowhere near enough metal and pawns right here. Meanwhile, the Cyan Commander has a huge number of these thugs. Now it's time that we start producing resbots in mass.
Commander destroyed.
Nice snipe right there from the blue commander. Shrek 3 on Netflix does manage to... Oh, this isn't Shrek 3 on DVD. I just realized. This is Shrek 3 on Netflix. Completely different person. My bad. Yeah, Shrek 3 on DVD is my father. You can call me Shrek 3 on Netflix. Oh man, I feel like Netflix even is a dying breed. I feel like the era of Netflix has kind of come and passed. Anybody remember Redbox? I remember Redbox. Tan Commander down in the dirt right here as more and more thugs for both the blue and cyan commanders likewise push forward right here. This is the moment where you either go for T2 or you go for a bajillion more thugs and you just keep walking them across the map here. You essentially have won the production battle. There's nothing that's going to save this commander if it's not a teammate. So that is the one condition that can catch you oftentimes is a T2 transition from a backliner, somebody like the Orange Commander or even the Red Commander, making T2 units, sending them across the field, and using them to reinforce over here. We do have these T2 mexes being leveled up right here. We also have so many solar panels. I think the idea here is to eat them all with the constructors while we go into the fusion reactor. We might not even need to, though, honestly. With how much metal production there is, yeah, it might not even be necessary. Sheldon now on the front line, making it super duper uncomfy for these units to push forward. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't take many of these Sheldon in order to make this a super awkward fight right here, but it works out. Anti-air. Ooh, fighters. Nice catch right there with the fighters from the Green Commander. That's a huge play right there coming out from Waza. Paying attention on the map, recognizes that that commander could only have gotten that far in a T2, well, a T1.5 heavy transport. It's a... I still think they should be called a medium transport because we have heavier transports in the game. I don't know. Anyway. In a transport, that plane shot out of the sky by the protective fighters right here, and all of a sudden an extra 1,000 or so metal goes right on back to the blue economy. Gonna be thrilled with the way that that just happened. We've got resbots coming out here, and I can't help but wonder if maybe just resurrecting to reinforce this army right here is kind of the move. You've already got an unstoppable force of thugs being resurrected and sent on over. We just have a huge E-stall for Scarecrow at the moment. We have, wow, 700 energy production. I suspect we've gone well into, yeah, those advanced solar panels, which are really the only way to do it. They're kind of the most efficient method you have before you get into T2. cost a lot of energy to build themselves, but of course that is an issue that you can solve with a simple downpour of T1 solar panels. And yeah, they don't have the hugest build cost either, so they're pretty easy to put up. See if I'm Green Commander, meanwhile, overwhelmed by simple pawn rushes here. Eventually just whittled so thin, doesn't have quite enough resources to stay in the fight. So the Pink Commander, at the very least, is winning this northern lane. Could be a dangerous situation, though, because as these pawns move forward, if we take a higher perspective here, I notice some folks really enjoy when I do this, so I'll give you folks out there watching one of these. As the Pink Commander is pushing forward, basically we have this line for the red team that is looking something like this, right? That's the red team's front line. It basically means that the blue team has a huge opportunity to push in from either direction here. They can kind of concave in on this base. However, it also means that the Pink Commander could take advantage of this by running forward into the bases here of the Blue Commander, potentially into the Seafoam Green Commander, although we do have a Shuriken, and now some Fiends rolling out of the lab here as well. It means that there's a lot of opportunity, and it all kind of rests on the Pink Commander's shoulders here. We either have to pull back and defend, or we have to move forward and be aggressive. And it seems like we've sort of petered out here, and now that those T2 reinforcements are in place, those Fiends are going to burn apart those T1 units super quickly. No reinforcements spared on the southern side, or at least not enough to save this base for the yellow commander, or sorry, the tan commander, Akula XD. And all of a sudden, red starts dropping. Always a bad sign when your teammates start leaving the game. I'm personally a big hater of leavers. I feel like there shouldn't be an individual leave button. I feel like it should be a team resign vote, or otherwise you stay in the game. That's just me personally, though. I've had one too many games ruined by people that left the game while we were even ahead in materials. Believe me, I checked the replay. And yeah, we ended up losing because we didn't have enough APM. It was the only limitation that we ran out of was APM. And that's kind of one of those things that you can only train so hard. Can only train it so hard. These 4 Sheldons, I was gonna say kept alive completely by the yellow commander, alpha PvP abuser. Sharpshooter making the difference right now as it fires into the distance and does manage to connect with a couple of those. Still firing away, trying to target whatever it can. Obviously, sharpshooters are pretty blind. What was it called? Short-sighted. That's the word. They're pretty short-sighted, so it means that when they're firing away, they need either a radar bot for full vision, or just to get lucky. As one of those shots hits the commander, and all of a sudden, Alpha PvP abuser is wondering, is there a spy bot? No, sir. Just good old-fashioned blind Armada luck. There we go. Sharpshooter with the aid here of the text now included has the vision in order to shoot at a bunch of these static defenses. Ultimately, where the sharpshooter's skill set lies. Resbots now trying to resurrect whatever army they can here. The Cyan Commander went up in smoke, and that does bring down a giant portion of the Thug army that was pushing forward. Still, though, a couple of them around and kicking and doing some damage. This hero over here, the Silver Star General, going to be blasting away at a whole bunch of these solar panels, killing some metal extractors, anything that they can. Resurrected units on the defense here. You've been rehired, and now report to the Red Army. A giant advantage on the southern side. We've got T2 units coming up and running here. We've got the Red Commander with this stellar T2 economy. I mean, yeah, we're up to 148 metal production. We really need to start seeing T3, frankly. We're actually going into airplay here, which, you know, I don't mind it, actually. Cortex bombers are super, super powerful. The Whirlwind bombers, very energy dense, but only by T1 standards. Once you get into these fusion reactors, you can make these 4,600 energy bombers pretty quickly. Pumping a couple of those out, sending them across the map to try and shut things down can be a valid strategy, but man, the airplay has been on par this entire game, so I'm not entirely convinced here that it's the right play for the Red Commander. Yeah, and I guess assumes the same thing here, as we do indeed go ahead and eat up that laboratory and go into more and more T2 production. I like it. I think that's probably the right idea. Yellow Commander still just in charge of microing the units, which is pretty funny. Always fun to see that sort of a strategy, right? I'll make the stuff, you spend the stuff. Kind of a interesting dynamic between the two commanders here. We have this radar jammer bot. Ooh, it does take a tickle of damage. The sharpshooters obliterate it. And all of a sudden, none left of any radar jamming on this front line right here. A impromptu jammer thrown up on the front line, actually, by the Red Commander, trying to help out this army protected from the hounds and the sharpshooters here of the Green Commander. Meanwhile, the southern side is in trouble. Shrek 3 on Netflix actually completely cut off. Ooh, okay. Completely cut off right here. The blue team with a gigantic eco advantage as the T2 mexes have been well distributed among the blue team. You can see every one of these commanders here has a T2 metal extractor or a T2 constructor upgrading to T2 metal extractors. The red team not so much. The pink commander has been in charge of so much of the eco of this game and just doesn't have those T2 mexes up yet. So despite winning this northern side in a weird kind of eco race, it ended up not being as big of a win as possible. Maybe the move right here was to transition down out of T2, go back into T1 units. They're a little bit cheaper, they're a little bit quicker to field, and then, yeah, maybe pumping out those T1 units a little bit longer on the front line, because they got that con out by about 6 minutes. If you spent half your metal building the T2 metal extractors, and then or maybe a quarter of your metal building those T2 metal extractors, and the other quarter spending it on units on the front line, you can win it with T1 quite nicely here, like the blue team did with those thugs. But then again, T2 vehicles are now rolling out of the laboratory here. The bulls are quite nice. Of course, they're getting surrounded by the fiends, which is about as great of a scenario here for the fiends as they could hope for. We have the resurrected thugs also trying their best. Fiends really are the ideal counter to pretty much everything in the T1 gantry, though, the T1 laboratory. They kind of are fast enough to dodge plasma projectiles, just tanky enough to deal with like 1 or 2 bursts from the heavier damaging stuff. And of course, they explode when they die, so they don't leave behind their full metal value, meaning that they end up being one of the most cost-effective units in the game. You don't leave a lot of wreckage behind when you use Fiends. An underappreciated but extremely valuable fact to consider, because, well, yeah, oftentimes that can be the game decider, or oftentimes even a comeback maneuver for a lot of these players, is resurrecting or reclaiming the units that have been sent to their side of the field. If the units self-destruct on death, there's not a lot to resurrect. You'll never see a Fiend resurrected, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Transferred yellow fiends here from the red commander, produced by the red commander, but now in charge by the yellow commander. Going to be moving forward here. Intersecting a nice wall of pawns. I mean, not the end of the world here for the fiends. Happy to burn through that, but it is going to start whittling them down at the very least. Meanwhile, we've got a fiend stream on the southern side here as well. The cyan commander just going for fiends using the Twitcher, actually. That's very cute. So Twitchers can actually build fiends as one of their fun superpowers. It means that one of the fun things you can do is build a T2 laboratory, build a T2 con, build a couple Twitchers, eat the T2 laboratory, use it to buy all the metal extractors, and still produce T2 units off of that growing economy, and have the extra 3,000 metal reinvested into the economy. It's a super efficient way of scaling as a Cortex player. Armada technically can build sprinters out of the console. However, sprinters are quite a bit worse than fiends. Just metal for metal, quite a bit worse. Sharpshooters here actually being a huge issue. I love that. Yeah, just a couple of sharpshooters is really all it takes to be a giant pain right now. Yep, there we go. Fiends rather are destroyed as they come out of the laboratory here, 2 at a time, and blasted to smithereens. Yeah, we got another Twitcher building fiends in the backline here. It is nice that we're going for some airplay once more, transitioning back into the airplay now that we have 4 fusion reactors. Quite nice. Fiends, though, have continued to be so annoying on the southern side. There's no defenses here, so all these fiends have free reign to run across the map. We did miss a couple of metal extractors here, but with no radar detection, it's kind of hard to tell. You need proper scouting. It's the one thing that the air player hasn't been on top of. As you can see, the fighters here, nicely done, managing to shoot down a whole bunch of the air players, well, figs here. The pink commander has transitioned essentially out of air, was the air player, transitioned out of air to play on the ground. It means that it's good that the red commander has started something like that, because otherwise it would have, well, been nobody. Still, it does mean that the green commander has the air advantage, and I wouldn't mind seeing, I wouldn't mind seeing T2 economy for one thing. We do have a fusion reactor planned right now. Yeah, we need to start eating these solar panels. That's a huge amount of solar panels. A 2,700 metal feast of solar panels. Looks like a fiend down here will end up cleaning this all up. Very nice as well. Suddenly, we need to upgrade the army here. I think a couple of sumos could definitely make the best of this. We have a little static defense in placement right here. Wouldn't even mind seeing this T2 con move forward to grab these mexes, though. I feel like we have enough force, enough firepower to handle that. Sharpshooters continuing on their rampage. We have the T2 jammer right here with the commander lurking just at the edge of it. Well, not quite at the edge, actually. A little bit inside from the edge. Pop-up persecutor, plasma artillery cannon firing away here at the sharpshooter snipers. Not bad. Where is Waza's Welders? Waza's Welders would be the name of a punk band that I think I would probably go watch. Cyan Commander with some nice D-guns. Hey, Shuriken play is pretty good here too. Yeah, okay, that's the answer. Air forces are coming out from the red commander. One of the fun things about a collision like this is you might sacrifice all those Shuriken, but because the fighters are shooting at the Shuriken, you'll take a slightly favorable trade against the enemy air player, which is, well, you need it in certain circumstances like this, where suddenly the red commander has way more money than you do. It can be a world of difference. Man, the commander still standing at this point in the game is super annoying here, though, for the yellow commander. Yeah, you can see he has to be so hesitant about sending these fiends in. Trying to dive in and do some damage to this commander, but it's so tricky. Obviously, the D-gun killing these in one shot. Oh, with the last burst, just barely manages to kill the green commander. Man, that was a hold for the ages. D-gun down to the very last moment. I think it was the last bout of flame after the fiend had even been destroyed that managed to kill that commander. Very close call. But it does mean the follow-up attack here will be devastating. The yellow fiends find their opening and manage to squeak on in. The air forces here for the red commander have likewise managed to penetrate the, well, the interior of the green team. Fusion reactor now up and running here. And I gotta give props to the red team for maintaining control of all this. However, we need those T2 metal extractors up and running. Yeah, we've got this group going around and building these metal extractors on the spots, but I think upgrading the mechs is gonna be worth more, right? Like, you consider this as building 1 mech's worth, whereas this is building plus 3 mech's worth, right? Because you get 4x per, so you're already getting 1, so the math adds up. The math adds up. Go for T2 instead of T1 in basically any case. I mean, it is a lot easier to build those T1, to be fair. So if it's going to be a long time before you can upgrade them, of course, go ahead and get them. Oh, we have apparently we did scout this Cloaked fusion reactor here. Yeah, kind of the issue with Cloaked fusion reactors is they are... they're all too easy to scout, right? They take forever to build, and then, of course, once they're scouted, they're detected forever. It would almost be nice if these would be, like, erased from memory eventually. Like, after a minute cooldown or something, they disappear from the map. Then we have to rediscover them or something. I don't know. Cloaked fusion reactors feel kind of pointless, I won't lie. Bombers here eventually shot down by the ground-based anti-air forces. We have tons of turrets that have been set up, and eventually... after some very devastating bombing runs, taking out the majority of the power production here for the Green Commander, who does start up that T1 lab for Lazarus to the red spots. We are eventually going to make our way into, yeah, some good old-fashioned T1. Try and get things back up and running. We need to resurrect a bunch of the solar panels and the fusion reactor to try and get all that stuff sorted out here quickly. The red front line is growing. Twin guards are looking quite good here. We've got the Scorpion turrets, the pop-up Scorpion turrets, which are quite nice as well. They fire a Sabo battery. An APFSD, armor penetrating, fin stabilized, discarding Sabo round. Yeah. Shenanigans. Shenanigans detected. Shenanigans ahoy! Boom! Goes the entire pink base right there. The entire laboratory. What did I do? Oh, I think I hit the wrong key combo. There we go. Beautiful connection right there from Scarecrow. Managed to wiggle that the scuttle in between all the turrets and everything. Man, what a mess to wiggle it all the way around inside of the enemy backlines and then into the base right there. But all of a sudden, 3,000 metal down the drain, and the pink commander is out of production. Idle constructors not assisting this T2 con is such a heartbreaker. The Pitbull's doing a great job of shutting down some of this aggression here. Lone Pitbull over here as well. We do have some lightning tanks to reinforce it, but I think there's just too much. Maybe not. Maybe it's just enough. Lightning tanks are really good. Oh, there's a bull in the mix here too. Okay, the bull is quite nice actually. That one's a lot of AoE damage, which is super, super useful when dealing with these clumps of fiends right there. Okay, actually a stellar defense right now. Oh, we have another one. We have a pair. Another pair of scuttles looking for a beautiful connection. I don't know what they found over here. We have another T2 laboratory, so maybe we're just gonna go double down. Yeah, we have a ping. Trying desperately to make sure that there's something here. You gotta start a T1 lab. You gotta start spamming out spam units. It's really the only way. Oh, wow. Look at that. Just handed over all the units. Yeah, abused out of the game. VDB quits the match after being pinged so viciously. Yeah, you gotta start up a T1 laboratory, especially as an Armada commander. It's great. You just start up... Oh, self-D killed both the scuttles. All right, well, that works. That solves that problem. Yeah, you just queue up a T1 lab and you start spewing out a whole bunch of ticks and try and go detect them manually. It's kind of the only efficient way of doing it. You're gonna want that T1 spam anyway to increase the vision of your late game army anyway, so it's worth it to invest. You gotta remember those scuttles are several thousands of energy. They're 27,000 energy, 755 metal. Super, super expensive energy-wise, so it does take a huge investment to make those. But the Cyan Commander doesn't care. Of course, we got the fusion reactor pumping all that out. In fact, we got multiple fusion reactors pumping all that out. A nice little eco in the backline here. Wouldn't even mind seeing more, actually. Just the tiniest bit of eco scaling can pay off long-term, going for an APHIS and some E-converters, all that sort of stuff. And there we go. We have the blue team calling it, as the purple commander says, going T3, Shiva indeed walking out onto the map. These Shiva are going to be devastating. Oh, what a cute little formation here. We've got a whole bunch of grunts coming up from the Twitchers. Twitchers, man, probably the best combat engineer in the game. In fact, I'm going to hands down say the best combat engineer in the game. Has the ability to produce quality units. I mean, top-notch units. Yeah, the what was it called? The console, for a while, very nice as well. It basically lost every good unit that it had. The Webbers can be nice in a pinch, but they are basically meant for reclaim, and the console already does that, so a little bit redundant. Look at that welder animation. Look at their welding tools repurposed into weapons of war. Shiva trading so favorably here. Oh, giant bombing run comes across. Blue bombers in peril, though. Yeah, the red swarm is tremendous. T2 fighters trying to clean up as much of this as possible, but man, there's so many fighters. I don't think they were expecting nearly as much air as there actually was here. Obviously, this is the last of the air. Oh, no, actually, pardon me. There is still a T2 laboratory pumping out those good old-fashioned airplanes. We're still going into fusions. That's actually pretty impressive. I would have expected that we weren't going to go into so much fusion scaling, eventually go into the APHIS, but it does take a lot of build power to build those, so makes a lot of sense, too. Pop-up cannon. Oh, scuttle and pop-up cannon. Managed to take out the constructor. Professor Bar is everywhere these days. As we watch another scuttle. That's a famous Professor Bar move. That's, yeah, as we watch a scuttle blast apart that construction crew that's building the pulsar within range here of this pop-up cannon.
Commander destroyed.
Again, the spam of units making all the difference right here. It's providing the vision that's allowing for the units to fire away into the distance without having to worry about it. Shiva's continuing to terrorize this northern side here. And what can only be described as a beautiful, beautiful scene of war. Go ahead and latch onto one of these. Those were bombers, by the way, flying overhead. They made it through. Hey, a double bombing run. Oh, wait a second, a double bombing run. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and germs. Wow. Sometimes you just gotta step back. Appreciate the picture. Well, that just about does it. A follow-up bombing run will take out the T3 laboratory as well. The build power now a little bit confused, not sure what it should be working on. Yeah, the bombers are kind of getting shot down by some panic T1 anti-air that was built up here, but man, there's just so many bombers. At this point, yeah, we're just strafing the entire base. At this point, just get the whole thing out of there. Build power will be the last primary target. You can take out the T2 air lab as well. That'd be quite nice. Frankly, yeah, I think this is probably the right move, though. Just moving along. Send those bombers on their next target. Send a little scouting party if you must. Little SAM turret trying its best. Pew, 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 pew. Not doing too much. The flak truck's going to be quite a bit better here. About a third or so of the HP bar of one of these bombers every time the flak does connect, and it doesn't connect every time. It's important to note. They technically are subject to inaccuracies just like any other unit in this game. Still, though, an immense bombing run. No teammate gaming 2 OP. Despite being fed entirely in the early game, despite having probably more so of a teammate than anybody else in the entire match, Darth Revan has decided to cry, no teammate gaming 2 OP. What a bummer. What a particular kind of bummer that some might even call ironic, as we have the Shiva now forced into defense duty. The Red Commander panic buying right now as solar panel prices skyrocket, even leaving the game, and now Alpha PvP Abuser is in charge of the entire map. This is an awful situation right now. The red team, in fact, decides that it's time to call it. We have the orange base now under hellfire from the Fiends moving forward, firing their rip-off Promethean. I've been informed by Warhammer Workshops that, or what is it called? Workshop? Something Workshop. That's, yeah, I'm not allowed to use the word Pyrotheum? Promethean. No. Pyrotheum. Somebody out there is cringing in disgust right now. I just know it. Oh, no. Couple of cheeky, cheesy little scuttles moving their way around, but they won't even get the chance.
Commander has died.
Red team throws in the towel right there, and really it feels like a morale victory here for the blue team. They really absolutely crushed it, keeping the pressure high on all lanes, defending against the pressure that was the highest,
Battle
and despite getting
ended.
that giant T2 leap ahead in technology, probably 4 minutes before T2 really arrived on the other side of the map, it didn't really pay off nearly as much as I think the red player was gambling. Just goes to show the power of teamwork here and spreading that T2 throughout the entire team for your whole map being T2 rather than just your eco. It can mean a lot, and especially if you don't break that line, it can be a gamble that you take with your team's life as the blue team seizes victory in this game. Thanks a ton for watching, and remember to check us out live on, well, basically any time this weekend over the 24 hours that the live stream is going to be happening. If you're used to my timing, I believe the event starts at 4 p.m. PDT. I'm going to say 4 p.m. PDT. That's... No, pardon me. I think it'll be 4 a.m. PDT. It's going to be the entire weekend. Tune in over the weekend. I'm sure there will be plenty of announcements. Sign up in my Discord for announcements, or otherwise in the main Discord, of course. And I hope to see you all in the very next match of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.